Hi, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten.
So our deployment was successful. We showed it in the last video. We
Mhm,
have our host pool. We
mhm,
have users who can use our desktops. And
mhm.
now, what can we do with it? How do we connect to? I think that's the theme of our session, right?
Right, and you do have various possibilities for connecting to Azure Virtual Desktop, right? And that's, maybe let's go to the official documentation here and see
Hmm.
where that is. Try to navigate you a little bit through, because if you would, use your search engine and type in AVD connect and then, enter the site Microsoft.com, for example, you would end up probably here, right?
Hmm.
Um, what you see here is usually in the beginning it was that bar here, and you had two possibilities to connect to the system, which was either a website for connecting to the desktops or a Windows client that you could download. So maybe let's do the legacy or sort of legacy approach first, right? And I will use the Windows client. I already downloaded it. I installed it. I even did, the updates to it, and I launched it. And that's how it looks like if it's coming out, vanilla of the system, right? So that's what you get if you download the MSRDC or the remote desktop client, right? So I need to subscribe. And I subscribe with my credentials. So that's not the correct ones. So you gave, right, the
Exactly.
permissions to view the desktop, right?
Yes.
So let's see, enter the password. And as you could see here, that's an Azure or an Entra ID login window here, right? So I'm currently authenticating against the Azure subscription or the Entra ID that's associated with it. And with that, there is a application group which has my user, and there was the workspace, right? So on top of here, you can see the workspace, which contains the application group, and that contains the desktop. So you remember you were entering a more friendly like name for the desktop itself. It got a little bit abbreviated, so it's not the full text, but it's the one, right? And I can connect to it, but I do a right click first because I want to make sure that as I do have a dual setup or a dual monitor system, I don't want to connect to all of the displays. I want to select the displays because that's much better for demonstrating, right, in a video how it works. So see here, that's my smaller desktop, which I'm using for connecting. So now I'm do a double click on it, and hopefully it brings up a dialog prompt.
Maybe you do a double click again. Yeah, no.
Just be patient, right?
It was two single clicks, not a double.
Yeah. So yeah, and now you get the a second login prompt, right? So there
Yeah.
is no single sign-on in that environment, if you wish, right? Which may be on the roadmap at some point in time. It is in Azure native. You can work with single sign-on there. It has
Mm.
some requirements, but usually, the idea behind that login is it is a different login, right? So the first one
Mm.
was a cloud-based identity authentication, and now we do something which is more old school, like a Kerberos authentication kind of
Mhm.
thing, logging on to
Yeah.
the box itself, right? Okay, so yeah, that is our
So we
desktop,
have a desktop, right?
right?
Cool. Finished.
Um, There's not a big deal, right? Interesting though is the thing on top here, right? So press maybe um, what is it?
The
The
bars,
stack,
like the
like
bars from
the
a phone.
stacked
Yeah.
bars, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the interesting piece here is the connection information that you have, right? So you could look up which protocol is being used, what bandwidth you have, what is your current frame rate, and what is the computer that you're connected to. So you could even see, at the bottom that I'm connected to number 7 of your hosts yeah, and that's basically it. There are other connection methods you may end up to, as there are some things for optimization, but we'll talk about that in a later video.
Yeah.
Right.
We will come back to that because there were some very interesting things here, but we don't want to go down that rabbit hole now. We do it in another session, right? So do you have some applications there? I see Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, so there is, Word, Excel, PowerPoint that's installed. I mean, you can open up the browser logically, but it's pretty familiar, pretty vanilla. So it's, we have chosen the M365 image, and it brings obviously that kind of applications with it. However, we didn't, we did not enable the user with an Office or with an M365 subscription, right? So we are still in the testing phase. So I would not be able to launch that. Well, I would be able to launch it, but it would tell me, hey, can you activate or that version of Word in order to work with it, right? But if you're a user that has the permissions to them, you could use that then. Okay. Other applications would need to be installed, but that's also a later video because we wanted to start fast. Customizing image, like installing a language pack, for example, is definitely something that will be added later on, right? Okay.
Okay, that's the usual application, the remote desktop client application for Windows. Do you want to show another one? Maybe the web one, or?
Yes, let me just disconnect first. And you may have seen from the dialogues that I have the permissions to shut down the host. That's not usually the case, right? But you gave me permissions.
We cheated a bit.
You gave me admin permissions, and that changed the options that I got for the logout. Okay, the web access, right? So I would advise you to go to the web browser section here because there is a specific URL that you could choose for logging into the Azure environment, right? So remember, we are hosting the AVD services for you. That means we are also hosting the websites for you in order to connect to it, right? So depends on where you are, but most common is Azure, the first option. So let's maybe copy that link here, and I need to do it in a private browsing section, probably, right? Because it is using the authentication context, right? And I don't want to log on with my Microsoft credentials first, so let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, back again here. So I found the right password, and logging on to that page, gives me a similar view, right? So I would be able to see that. And maybe, what's interesting is which kind of local resources I want to add. Do I want to add the clipboard for copy and pasting and the local installed printers? And I would say yes for having that benefit. And here's the second auth prompt, like as we had before. And now you see, a similar view to the desktop itself as it was before. Okay, so I mean,
and it was reconnecting to your disconnected session.
Yeah, another thing. Yeah, that's true.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, let's go back. Disconnect here. And by the way, people may not like to have disconnected sessions, right? Because they consume resources, especially in a pooled kind of environment that might be costing you resources, right? Where you are not able to host so many users as you want to on that system. So you may end up having policies for disconnecting users after a certain period of time, for example. That's when group policies come into that play. Okay, but there's one more thing that I want to show before we switch over to another tool, which you show. is the features are different a little bit depending on which client you are choosing, right? I mean, there are also different clients for different operating systems and even thin clients that you can choose. But they don't have, I think, 100% feature overlap. So there are things that you can do with one version, but maybe not be able to do it with the other version, right? So if you want to learn more, then go into this section here and read up through what you can do, how the tools work, and what's maybe not working. Okay. But I think I'll switch over now to your system, or let's switch over to show the Windows app, which is relatively new, right?
I think so. I saw it, so I switched to my screen. So I'm here. I'm shooting the video or presenting from a Windows 11 host, and I opened the Windows store on the host, and I'm just searching for Windows app in the store, and here's the Windows app. And normally Windows app, okay, there's not remote desktop app in it. So I think it's from the Windows 365. So when you have your own desktop in Azure, there's an option to get a desktop in Azure. And I think this is the app for that. But if you read here, it can also connect to Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, DevBox, and so on. And I like the look and feel. So I want to show an alternative to the remote desktop client. It's already installed. So you just install it from the Windows app. There is no fee included here, so it's free. And then you have this application. So it's an app. It's not signed in. So I have also to sign in with an Entra ID account. So, and I forgot to copy and paste the password, so I have to type it. So now I'm connected as the user. I can switch to another user and so on. And here we also have settings. So first I go to devices, and what we are subscribed now also to with this user, and we see there is one Azure Virtual Desktop for me, or at least one workspace, and I can connect to it. But the same is true here then with your client. If I just do it, I have it on every screen I have. So I also go to the settings, and you see I've two screens more. So so I only want it on this one. That's already configured, so it has remembered my settings, and I can do the other things here as well. So I'm fine. And I go now to connect. And the same is now happening. We will see a prompt for the local user. At least it gave the local system my username, and I only have to authenticate with the password. So I'm now in full screen, and this is something we saw at your login also. So in the multi-session version of the Windows 11, there is already the FS Logic application is already there. We haven't configured anything yet. We will do that also in a later video. But we see it tries to use FS Logic already. It's not succeeding. And then we get a normal profile, a local one. And here you see I have just the same as you had. I have my Windows apps and so on. And if I go to the, how you called it, stacked bars here, and I also have a very good connection, but I have a different one. So I use an RD gateway in Azure. And I go over the WebSocket. We will talk about the different connection types later. And I have 38 milliseconds. Yeah. So
it's depending on the network that you have or where you are located, right? But let's dedicate a session more specifically
We
to
will
that.
Do that, yeah.
If you question yourself, because sometimes there are the questions regarding multi-factor authentication. Yeah, that works as well, right? So you may be prompted for multi-factor authentication if you have configured your Azure Entra ID accounts for that. Depending on how you have specified that. And what else? Yeah, the other question is, and I think we tackle that one in the next video, which is, what am I allowed to bring in that sessions, right? So for example, if you could open up your file explorer, would you see local drives as well? Because usually, that's probably a thing or the question that the people ask. Hey, can I bring my local drives into the session? And for that, we see yes. But these are
the answer already. Yeah, we see.
Yeah,
yes.
These are the default ones or the default settings. But you may not want to have the redirected drives and folders inside of the desktop for security reasons, for example. So I think we now should talk a little bit about what you can configure on the host pool itself in order to allow or disallow things. Yeah, but I would say
we do that in this session, or
yeah, let's do one more thing. So the name, what I dislike was the name of your workspace. So can you open up your Windows app one more time, please?
I can open up my Windows app. It's still here. So here we are.
No, not this one.
You mean the Windows app, not the connection.
Right. So see here, the workspace is called Site B #1, and that might be not the best name for the user, right? For the workspace to be identified. So let's change that name and see how fast it is reflecting in that view. So if you go back to your host pool or to your resource group where the AVD resources are,
it's here.
And look for the workspace object.
There we have it.
And under properties, I think you should be able to specify a friendly name under configuration on the right.
Yeah, but it's not here.
Yes, it is.
Application group, maybe.
No, it was. Yes. So go move your mouse to the right. There is no, in the middle. It's directly in the middle of the screen. Friendly name.
Here's the name. I didn't get it. Here you can enter it. Okay. Yes, so now we have to decide for a good name.
Workspace Site B or something.
Workspace Site B. I take it because I'm always not good with names.
Save it on top to make it happen.
Maybe we do a little bit space here. One space. Right. So here's the save button. Okay. And I go to the Windows app.
It was updated, and probably we need to do some sort of a refresh here. Maybe it's the 3 dot. I'm not so used much used here with that tool. So
the 3 dots here is pin 2. Can we refresh it? Let's see. Or maybe an F5 will help. No, it's not. Unbelievable. So no refresh here.
So on the settings on the left,
there's also no refresh. We are stuck with the name forever.
So the what the Windows app is, the Windows app is lazy, or let's switch over to my system.
I will do that. Let's see.
Okay, so see here, that was the previous name, right? But here is a refresh button. So let's
they forgot the refresh button in the Windows app.
I don't know. Maybe it's something that would be a good feature request. I don't know. So now you see here workspace Site B. So it's relatively fast. I mean, from the depending on how you do it, and that's a little bit better name, I would say. Okay, but anyways, let's see at restricting the access to the desktops, and that's another session.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, see you in the next one, right?